Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for the amazing resonance towards the video how tennis players print money. Today we will look at the dark side, at the other side of it, how tennis players lose money, the expenses. Let's get right into it.
Hey, what you need, yeah? Man, I got it, wow. What you say, hey? We about it, get the cream, yeah. Why you slacking? Why you talking all the top, boy, you playing? What you need, hey? Yeah, I got it, with the team, yeah. We about it, wow. Get the cream, yeah. Why you slacking?
To kick off the video, we have to define what are actually the expenses of a tennis player. So we have equipment, rackets, grips, strings, obviously your clothes, then you have to oftentimes pay a fee to practice, you have to pay a coach, you have to pay the travel to the tournaments, you have to pay hospitality, naming the hotel and the food, and maybe you sometimes take a friend or someone for support similar to coaching, or you actually take a coach on the road. These are all things that add up quite fast, and now we will look at how they behave on the different areas of tennis, Futures, Challenger and ATP Tour, and yeah, you might be surprised how the realities are. Alright, we're starting again on the Futures Tour, where, as you've learned, we earn the least amount of money in professional tennis, yet the expenses at the Futures Tour are not the lowest. So many of you might have expected them to be lower because you make so little money, but it's not the case. They're almost the highest expenses, and that's why oftentimes becoming a pro, starting on the Futures Tour, you have to view it as an investment. You have to find money to play there. The expenses are very high. You don't have hospitality, you get no money for food, you get no free food, you have to string everything by yourself, you have most likely zero sponsorships, and yeah, that's the rough reality. You get nothing basically on the Future Tour, and you have to pay for everything, hotel rooms, travel costs obviously as well. These things add up quickly, and a year on the Futures Tour can cost anywhere between 20 to 50,000 euros, also depending where you live. And it's really a rough reality, and one tip I can give you is, if you can, I couldn't do it, it took me many years to go to the Challenger Tour, eventually in doubles. One of the tips is get coaching, which obviously would be even more costs, but coaching is very crucial in order to get better, and you can lower the costs of the coaching by traveling in groups. Especially in singles, it can get very lonely when you're always traveling by yourself, and you can get in a bad mental state, and having a coach and having a team helps you. Many tennis players, I mean, we're individual players, we have egos, so why would you share a coach with another player? Obviously you will have to play against him or her a few times, maybe in the time span of 2-3 years, but you can benefit so much more by working together, saving costs, traveling together, and this clearly outweighs, in my opinion, the drawback of that this person might know your game inside out and that you might lose or have a couple tough matches against that person. Luckily, we made it now to the Challenger Tour, where the expenses are significantly lower compared to the Future Tour. At the Challenger Tour is where you start to break even and potentially make money playing tennis. So the tournaments, they cover your hospitality, which is huge, your hotel for sure, many meals, sometimes even the whole day, which means breakfast, lunch and dinner. Some tournaments have really good deals. You can practice very well at these tournaments, you get new balls for practice, it's overall a much better environment, which besides making more money and saving money is also a nice benefit. And the prize money obviously is higher, so the costs on the Challenger Tour are, you have to pay for your coach, you have to pay for your travel, but in some years the ATP gives out a so-called travel grant. It's nothing crazy, but it's a few $1,000 to support you, so much more opportunities to make money for travel costs and expenses. And you still need a coach. It's still clever if you come together as a group to share a coach, because the prize money is not crazy unless you're on the upper end of the Challenger Tour. The travel can be potentially a bit more expensive because the Challenger Tour runs worldwide. But I would recommend staying in certain regions. I'm European, for us it's obviously quite easy. So many tournaments in Europe, so on the Challenger Tour I always stayed for long periods of time in Europe, playing tournaments back to back to back. You could also do the same thing with the South American swing, the American swing. This is a great way to save expenses on the Challenger Tour, and overall the Challenger Tour has already very nice facilities, nice gym. Oftentimes you're welcome to stay even after you've lost, and sometimes I've had this happen, they pay for a couple hotel nights even when you're not in the tournament anymore. This is not necessarily typical, but the whole vibe and the expense situation is much nicer on the Challenger Tour. Before we get into the ATP Tour, I want to cover a little bit the framework for a good business mentality when you approach being a tennis player. So a lot of us, we have the dream as young kids to become professional tennis players, and we don't think about the business side of the game until we get older. And this is nice and this is good. And to be a good player, you have to keep this childish ambition and fun, and you shouldn't be too serious about it in the beginning. It would be better if you have parents or a surrounding team that takes care of it. But in reality, not everybody has this, so here's a little bit of a framework that could help you to run a better company. Why am I saying company? Because you have to view yourself as a business, as a company. Of course, you're a tennis player, you're an individual, but for your career it would be very clever to also sign up a business, which is in every country is different, so I cannot get into this topic too much, but you can sign yourself up as a business in many countries, and this will allow you to also write off a lot of expenses. This is also a topic where it's very tough to give advice due to legal things, but I will cover a little bit of it. And if you are a company, you have expenses on the one side and you have your earnings on the other side, and they work together. As opposed to if you're not a company, you cannot write off certain things which in the end improve your situation financially. So without getting too complicated, you have to view yourself as a company, which also requires you to make a plan. Making a plan which tournaments are you playing, making a plan for a budget, thinking about how can I gain sponsors, how can I get sponsorship, how can I make money. Also, you can watch my other video, how tennis players make money, where I outline at the different levels how you can make extra money, like playing club matches, possibly giving lessons. If you make a clear plan, for example at the end of the year or before a 3-month stretch, you can play much more relaxed, because you will not be anxious, oh, am I making enough? Everything will be planned beforehand, and you will be ready and prepared for unexpected situations, and can possibly play even more if you're on a good streak and don't have to worry about money missing. One thing that I luckily never had to do, but a good tennis friend of mine talked about this, is if you're in a really tough situation financially, you can think about first going for a year playing open tournaments, giving lessons, and building up an so-called envelope, which is just another word for like an amount of money in an envelope, which you will then put aside and only use for your tennis career. So you invest in yourself for a year playing open tournaments, or maybe UTR tournaments, money tournaments, which still improves you as a tennis player, also playing club matches. And then you gather all of this money, save this money, and then you make the plan, as I've said, and use that money going on the tour and hopefully going to the top, to the ATP Tour, and that's the next part of this video. Hey guys, quick video break. As requested, you ask how much is a tennis player keeping at the end of the year. I'll give you an example. It's a fictional example. Let's take a singles player ranked about 250 in the world. He played some qualies of slams, but also a lot on the Challenger Tour, which, as I've said before, makes a big difference, because on the Challenger Tour you make less, and in the slam qualies is where you make the big bucks, also in singles. We will assume that he has taken in so far $150,000, playing a normal schedule, about 25 to 30 tournaments, and so he earned $150,000. And now we have to deduct certain amounts. One, for the traveling, which depends where he's at in the world, but would be typically for a year between 20 and 30,000, possibly more. Then for the coaching, let's assume he's not having a coach every week. Let's say he has a coach for 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks actually. Again, looking at 15 to 20,000. Then obviously certain food costs, stringing equipment at this level. Typically the players, they have contracts. So just for the business side of things, they have no expenses there, hopefully. If they do, it will be a low amount, a few thousand euros maybe, between 2 and 4,000 maybe for the year. And all in all, I mean, this is a fictional example, player that makes 150,000, playing some slams, playing worldwide, Challenger and ATP Tour, typically has expenses of about 40 to 60,000, so he will take home anywhere between 90 and 110,000 before taxes obviously, and that differs in every country, to give you a ballpark. The final step, the ATP Tour. You would think that the expenses here are the lowest, but that's not the case. The earnings are the highest, and what you have in your pocket at the end of the year is also the highest, but the expenses are also the highest. Hear me out. So playing on the ATP Tour, the pinnacle of professional tennis, the ATP World Tour, requires a certain amount of yearly costs, especially for travel, because it's the ATP World Tour, you travel worldwide, and coaching. It is very important to have top-notch coaching at the highest level of the game, because just a few wins at Grand Slams can decide about hundred thousands of euros and dollars. So it's very wise to invest in good coaching, also good athletic and fitness coaching, possibly a physio. And that's what the top singles players are doing. They have a big team because they want to squeeze out every drop of their potential by having the best people around them almost for the entire year. When I first came to the ATP Tour, I was a bit shocked. Like, so many players had 2 or 3 coaches with them on a weekly basis. So sometimes on smaller events, even though the prize money is good, they are barely breaking even unless they go really deep in the tournament, but they're doing it as an investment to play really good at the big tournaments. And that's kind of the reality on the tour, that you compete against people that have 2-3 coaches that are already higher than you, and that's why it's so tough to get to the top of the game. As I've said, the expenses are super high on the Futures Tour. You can barely get a coach for yourself, you have to share with other people, but you have to get better than people at the top that have multiple coaches, and also a better setup, no hotel costs. Top players also get sometimes more hotels from the tournaments. Food is covered. There's very good physiotherapists if you're not bringing your own, also provided by the ATP tournaments. Laundry is done on a daily basis, so the comfort level is very high on the tour, and the players, obviously they make a lot of money, are not afraid to invest in themselves, which will ultimately make them better. So to come full circle, the highest costs are at the ATP Tour, but not because of like a kind of a burden situation. It's by choice, because investing more most likely results in better performance on the court. After that, I would argue that on the Futures Tour the costs and expenses are higher compared to the Challenger Tour, because on the Challenger Tour you have the advantage of the hospitality, and on the Challenger Tour the costs are the lowest. This is the reality of professional tennis. Obviously there are thousands of different examples where some players have sponsors, some players don't. Maybe you have a good deal where in your hometown club you play club matches for them, you get coaching for free. Maybe not, maybe you don't need a coach, not everybody needs a coach. Players have made it quite far without a coach. Maybe you're from a smaller country, you have a deal with your airline there. Maybe you're from a bigger country where you can play club matches. So every player has a different scenario. This is also something you should keep in mind. Everybody's individual, but I hope this outline of the expense situation helps you to adapt for yourself, and most importantly, Don't forget the analogy, the example of being a company, because if you look at yourself like that, I guarantee you that you will have a better situation and a better chance of maximizing your potential as if when you're disregarding this aspect of the game. As always, thanks for watching, subscribe to the channel, and I see you in the next video.